Good morning. Clearly, I'm not with you guys today. I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm a little sick. So, fortunately, the lesson we were going to do today is something I can show you in a video, and it won't be too much of. You guys should be able to figure it out pretty easily. So, if you think about soccer, there's times where you need to head the ball. There's times where you need to kick a lob over. Sometimes you need to kick the ball low. They're all different techniques, and every one of them gets practiced in practice because you never know when you're going to need each one. Same thing with us solving proportions. Okay, so some of these are actually pretty easy. You can do in your head. Remember, proportion is two equivalent ratios, aka equivalent fractions that you did in like third grade. So this one is obviously super easy. You would just use what you did in third grade, multiply both by 4. Okay, and obviously x equals 12. Not that hard. Okay, um, but sometimes you don't always look across. So going from 5 to 19, while it is 3.8, most of you could figure that out. Sometimes it's just a lot easier to look at the relationship between the numerator and denominator. So if you notice, 60 is 12 times bigger than 5, which means that x down here must also be 12 times 19. Now, you could use your calculator for it, or you could do it in your head, aka 20 times 12, which is 240. And then you got to take away 12, so 240 minus 10 is 230. 230 minus 2 is 228. Or you can just use your calculator, whichever. So when you're looking at something like this, okay, again, a little bit complicated going from 0.8 to 6.2. However, if you notice that in the numerator, it is 4 times bigger than the denominator. So for here, all you got to do is 4 times 6.2, and 6 times 4 is 24. 0.2 times 4 is 0.8, so x is 24.8. Okay, so one is what you did in like third grade, going across from numerator to numerator, denominator to denominator. Second strategy is what's the relationship between the numerator and the denominator. Sometimes when you look at the fractions, it's actually pretty easy. Obviously, this one going straight across, you multiply by 3. But let's look at a different strategy. We're going to, obviously, we know the answer is 15 already. So when we get to the answer, we know we're right. So if you think about this for a second, x over 21, if you think about what we did last chapter when we were solving for a variable, right? This is really just x divided by a number. So one of the things I can do is just multiply both sides by 21. Okay, and that simplifies through. And then this one's a simple one, obviously, because it cross cancels and we get x equals 15. But if it were kind of weird numbers, just use your calculator. Life is going to be relatively simple. Obviously, we already know what the answer to this one is, 24.8. But again, another way to solve this one is to multiply both sides by 6.2. Now, this one, you'd actually have to use your calculator in order to get 24.8, but I will not take the time to do that because you already know the answer. Okay. Now let's look at these. You know what? There is no relation. Well, here I can multiply both sides by 45.9. Okay. We're going to get to our next strategy, which actually is the one I use almost every single time. I'll be flat honest with you. 95% of the time. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's probably a little less than that, but whatever. This is the strategy that I actually use. So why don't we come down here and let's use 5/7 and x over 21 for a second. So we can just go straight across from 7 to 21. Now, you guys know in your head, obviously, you're multiplying both by 3, but we're going to look at it in a different way. And this is going to work every single time. Okay. And what you do is, what do I multiply by 7 to get to 21? Well, I multiply where I'm going to, 21, divided by where I'm coming from, 7. Okay. So, it's just a relationship. What do I multiply this by to get that? Well, it's that divided by that. Super easy, super fast. All right. Not a lot of work to do. Now, obviously, we already know that's 3, but so 5 times 21 is 105. 105 divided by 7 is 15. So we already know that. Well, now let's come up here. Okay. What do I multiply 13.5 by to get to 45.9? It's really easy. It's where I'm going to 45.9 divided by 13.5. Okay. And the nice part about this is the calculator does all the work for you. What does that equal? I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The calculator does the work for me. Okay, it's where I'm going to divided by where I'm coming from. And if you think about it, let me just come down here for a second. If I'm doing 13.5 and I'm multiplying it by 45.9 over 13.5, well, this is really 13.5 over 1. Those cross cancel, and I'm left with my answer. Okay, so this is the number I'm going to plug into my calculator, 45.9 divided by 13.5. Okay, and then I multiply that by 5.4, and I get 18.36. And y is equal to 18.36. So let's use that same strategy over here. Oops, I don't want to do that. We're going to multiply what we're going to divided by where we came from. So 25 over 40. And again, this works every single time, right? Where I'm going to divided by where I'm coming from. So 25 divided by 40. Okay, multiply that by 64, and I get y equals 40. Not too much work to do there. Let's look at this one. Okay, so let's multiply where I'm going to divided by where I'm coming from. 15. Okay, so let's multiply, let's do 117 divided by 15. Okay, and let's multiply that by 54. And r is equal to 421.2. Yes, they're not all going to come out to be perfect little numbers. Totally fine. Now, when I was in middle school, your parents were in middle school, this is the way that they were taught. They were caught using cross products. Remember, we used cross products the other day. And we said really what cross products is you're getting a common denominator, okay, where you're multiplying both sides by the other denominator. Here you're getting 10x over 80 is equal to 56 over 80. And we know that when you have common denominators and it's equal, then the numerators have to be equal to one another. So here you can solve with 10x equals 56, divide both sides by 10, and x equals 5.6. Oh, by the way, like what's the algebra behind it? Oh, if I multiply both sides by 80, I get 10x equals 56. That's like the really long way of understanding it. Okay, so cross products generally is just multiplying numerator of one by the denominator of the other. Now, this is the one we use the least because it actually requires the most work. Okay. And we know that the more steps you have, the more chance you have to make a mistake. All right. So let's come over here. Let's solve this one with cross products. All right. So we do those. So we get 0.4k is equal to 4.3 times 3.12. I should have just typed that into the calculator, not written it out. That was one extra step I did not need to do. 3.12. All right, so that's 13.416. Divide both sides by 0.4. All right, and k is equal to 33.54. Now, cross products, like I was saying, sometimes it's just more work. All right, so let's solve this first one with cross products. And then we'll do the second one with the other way that I had shown you. So this is 2.84s, and that equals 7.1 times 5.4, which is 38.34. Divide both sides by 2.84. Okay, 2.84, and I get s is equal to 13.5. So you see all the work that's required there. If I come up here, okay, now I'm going to the left. Doesn't make a big deal. Doesn't matter if you're going to the left or the right or the left or the right. Same thing. You're doing the same thing. How do I get to 7.1 from 2.84? Well, I multiply by 7.1 divided by 2.84. So I need to do that here. So let's divide that, 7.1 divided by 2.84. And now multiply that by 5. And 5.4. And I come out to be 13.5. And you get the same exact answer. It's just a little bit less work. Okay. All right, now let's come over here. When you have a problem like this is where cross products is actually going to be necessary. Okay. Because you have an expression down here as opposed to just a simple variable. So this would be 15 times z plus 1 is equal to 240. So we could divide by 15 here, but I think it's just easier to distribute in this case because, whoops, minus 15. I know it's going to come out to be 225, and that's a lot easier to do because it is 15 squared. Okay, so z is going to be 15. Final thing that we have to look at is taking two ratios and writing them as proportions and solving them. So obviously they're not going to be written in a fractional form. They're written in one of the other forms. So you have to turn it into a proportion. All right, so we multiply to get over here, 20 over 8, multiply here, 20 over 8. So 20 over 8 is, let's see, so 60 divided by 8 is 7.5. All right, let's look at the last one. Okay. So this is x over 22.5 is equal to 305 over 61. So again, we're moving to the left. How do we get from 61 to 22.5? Well, 22.5 divided by 61 and multiply that by 61, and I'll get 22.5. So I come to the numerator, multiply it by 22.5 over 61. So 22.5 divided by 61 is one ugly number. Totally fine. Let the calculator do the work for you. Now I multiply that by 305, and it comes out to be 112.5. So x is 112.5. Okay. So all the different strategies that we did. Okay, look at the relationship between numerator and denominator. Multiply like we did here. Okay. By where you're going to, divided by where you came from, or using cross products. Any of these ways are, or using mental math, obviously, or any of the ways that are going to get you to your solution. Okay. Work on your assignment that is in big ideas. If it's not finished, it is for homework. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow.